Speaking of giraffe holes,
Welcome to Behind the Sins, presented by CinemaSins.
welcome to Behind the Sins, your weekly look at all things cinema sins, TV sins, and commercial sins. I'm your host, Aaron, but not that Aaron, of course, and this week I'm joined by CinemaSins staff member, Horny Ned Flanders.
Is that my official name?
I think the people in Discord were trying to figure out, like, they for some reason want to call you not that Aaron. But,
okay.
Horny Ned Flanders is what you've been called on the podcast before, so I figured let's just go with that.
Well, I have a couple things here. First of all, it's not like I'm not that Aaron, so we can go with not that Aaron. But also, no one has ever called me Horny Ned Flanders. That is not
They
Horny
definitely
Ned.
have.
No. Somebody has gotten it all wrong. It's not that I'm Horny Ned Flanders. It's that I'm Ned Flanders if he liked a good double entendre. It's maybe perverted Ned Flanders, maybe something like that.
I think both things can be true.
Listen, I have made no statement about my relative desire for sexual intercourse, so I don't know that there is any way to define my horny level. So yes, but I do definitely love a good double entendre and that kind of thing. So yeah.
Fine, I guess we'll just call you by your legal name. I'm joined by CinemaSins staff member Aaron Dicer.
Hey, that's me! Idly ho, Cineritos!
You're preparing for a big trip, right?
Heading out to Fantastic Fest. Wild story. I won a contest, and that's great. Winning stuff is fun. But it was just like out of the blue. I went to see a movie at the Alamo Draft House. We have one of those here where I live, and
Jealous?
they were doing, you really should be. Like, it's a pretty, like, I just went and saw Dial M for Murder in 3D last night. And it's just like to see, because Hitchcock made that movie in 3D. Mm-hmm. That was his only 3D movie. And I'd never seen it on the big screen, let alone in 3D. But that's the Alamo, man. Like, they play all the new stuff. And then they also have all these older movies that you can get a chance to see on the big screen. And they've got good food. And so, yeah, you should definitely be jealous. But anyways, I was there, and they were doing this contest for Fantastic Fest, which I'd heard of as the movie festival, the film festival, with kind of a lean in on kind of the weird, because it's the kind of that Austin vibe, that Alamo Drafthouse vibe. I was like, I'll enter that. It's really easy. You just text your, email to this, or go to this website and put your email in. So I did that, and I got a call like a week and a half ago from somebody being like, hey, you're the grand prize winner, like the single grand prize winner of this contest where almost 10,000 people entered. So that meant I have tickets to a badge for the entire 8-day festival. They're covering flight and lodging and food and Ubering and
like it's really like the whole deal. Like,
yeah.
I mean, if it's not like flights and lodging is certainly generous, but it's also like, no, and we'll pay for an Uber and we'll pay for
food? And it's not like I can eat as much food as I want, but like here's a certain amount, in
here's
food
here's
coupons.
a voucher, gift certificate,
right, for Alamo, right? Like it takes
right.
place at the Alamo, so it's easy enough for them to do, I guess. But so I'm heading down that way and taking Ian, who you heard last week on BTS, and from this staff. Since he's in town. I was like, you want to go to a film festival? And he was like, yes. And so we're heading that way. Already have our tickets for tomorrow's shows.
But by the time this comes out, you'll have already been halfway through it. So,
well, by the time this comes out, we'll be actually finishing up. This will drop the day Fantastic Fest ends. We'll probably be watching Triangle of Sadness as you're listening to this. That is the final movie at Fantastic Fest. So
what are some of the ones that you're most excited for?
Man, I'm boring. Kind of the more mainstream stuff like The Menu, Triangle of Sadness, which I mentioned, Smile, which comes out next week but having its world premiere at Fantastic Fest.
You're excited for that one?
Only because it's just like it's something I'm gonna have to watch anyway, and it's the world premiere, and a lot of the niche genre stuff isn't going to necessarily appeal to me. It's weird because your whole mindset on attending movies changes when you have a badge that you can just get any ticket to any of the movies that are showing.
Yeah.
There's 5 flights a day, so 5 rounds over 8 days. Like That's somewhere around 40 movies. So it'll be really interesting. So yeah, but the menu, Smile, Triangle of Sadness. The other part of it that's weird is I don't do a lot of like study beforehand on movies. I just go see them. It's my favorite thing. And so I didn't know a lot of the names of these movies until like other people helped me understand what might be fun. I was like, oh, all right, that sounds good. Because I don't watch trailers or anything either.
Right.
There are also 2 secret screenings. So like literally sit in the seat, won't know what's playing until it starts kind of thing. And I'm hoping those are Glass Onion and Fablemans, but they will not be.
I'm sure you'll be happy with whatever.
Avatar 2, The Way of the Water. Yeah, I'm sure that'll be there.
I know the Alamo is a good quality theater, but don't you like really want to see that in like IMAX 60 frames a second?
You have no idea. I have been studying where I should go see Avatar, and it turns out what Cameron is doing is something called, he's working with a company called True Motion. I'm sorry, like this is all fresh in my brain. We'll get to this inside scoop, I promise. But yeah, so he's doing this thing with True Motion where the high frame rate can be dialed up and down and scene specific. So basically it allows the filmmaker to communicate to the audience exactly what they want to communicate to the audience. So sometimes you'll get people talking about the soap opera effect, those kind of things. It's usually in more of the conversational scenes, the down scenes, not really the action scenes. Because when you see action at high frame rate, it's mind-blowing. Like it blows your mind. So basically it allows the majority of the, let's just call them slower scenes, to be at 24 frames a second or whatever, and then dial it up to, 60 frames a second or 120 or whatever. I couldn't find necessarily what it'll be dialed up to during like the beautiful stuff. So turns out that's probably going to happen no matter where you see it in 3D. Like most places can do higher frame rates now. That's just part of the projectors. Unless I'm misunderstanding, you can go see it in Real D 3D, and you should get the full effect.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, this is not a movie podcast. This is a podcast about a YouTube channel about movies.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm fascinated, but I think it's time for us to dive into the SinSide Scoop.
What's he building in there?
I've got a secret.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
This is a true story.
Morty's Mind Blowers. This is a Jonathan and Danae script.
Also, the only script this week that I didn't write on.
Woohoo! Yeah, which will be fun. This is this was good. I thought I was getting you for 3 scripts this week, and then you were like, "Hey, you get me for 4." So it looks like I made
right.
the right.
I'm on 4.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you should kick it off then, since this is the only one that you get to have an unbiased opinion on. What are some of the things about the video that you liked?
Oh, it's hilarious. Look, doing Rick and Morty is so fun. Jonathan and Danae always write great stuff. One of my favorite things about the Rick and Morty scripts is we will always, at every opportunity, send something on the table if they're eating a meal. Like, it is just like, for whatever reason, it's just become something we do. So in this case, it was the 2 glasses of whatever this is at the Mexican restaurant. And then thinking it might be orange juice, and the idea of eating orange juice with Mexican food set the narrator off a little bit. That cracked me up. I love that.
Also
stuff.
set me off a little bit. That sounds
fun.
disgusting.
Orange juice is one of those tastes where it really is that kind of thing you can put with some other things and you just go, no, like, you're hurting me.
Yeah.
Orange juice and toothpaste, or whatever the case may be. I don't know what it is about orange juice, if it's the citrus aspect to it or what, but
I don't know.
But yeah, pretty nasty.
Well, and there's also another one which definitely had a lot of comments on, because somebody seems to be hurt by brown gravy, and the YouTube comments were just full of it. So the one I specifically wrote down was, how the hell do you eat your mash? Mashed potatoes and gravy is a god tier combination. I wasn't even aware that this was a controversial opinion. So my question is, who has the beef with brown gravy?
I like that pun. Very nice pun. The beef. I get it. That is Jonathan, who wrote that he doesn't like brown gravy. And he said, the story behind this is There is no story. I just don't like the way it tastes.
I was like 98% sure
interest-
that was going to be the answer, but it's still satisfying to hear.
But here's the thing. I will tell you this. The voice of the narrator, the person behind the voice of the narrator agrees. Brown gravy is disgusting. I don't understand it. The best way to have your mashed potatoes is plain, by the way.
You
if it's
don't
got,
get to
if
have
it's-
food opinions. You're a super taster. That's not fair to the rest of us.
Okay, fine. That's
But I do
fair.
agree. I do like mashed
John-
potatoes best plain. I mean, lots of butter, but yeah.
Yeah. As long as you got the right butter in there, and maybe even left some of the skins in,
Mm-hmm.
I really dig that. But I'm not a fan of brown gravy. I'm not even really a fan of sausage gravy, although Jonathan is. That's his gravy. Is the white gravy, the sausage gravy. So yeah, gravy's. I don't know. I don't get many condiments. So is gravy a condiment or is it a food? What is gravy?
Gravy's a condiment.
Or is it a sauce?
It's both.
Is it a stew?
Isn't a condiment a sauce? Like ketchup is a sauce and a condiment.
Yes.
I would say
correct.
gravy would be the same because like gravy is not the main portion of the meal, right?
Yeah. We don't know anybody that spoons gravy, right? Like that's
Maybe
not
Frank?
something that people do. It's like a stick of butter in one hand, a spoonful of the gravy in the other.
Yeah. Well, that was the most controversial thing, and then the other controversial thing about this was the sin was Edward without scissor hands, referring to the creature in the beginning, and apparently lots of people were like, "That's supposed to be Sandman," and who cares? Edward without
fine.
scissor hands.
No, that's fine. Listen, no, I'll be honest. I don't get too worked up about people quote unquote correcting us. First of all, if you love a channel that nitpicks things, kind of understand that you like to nitpick things. Like, that's okay. I totally get it. What I do hope is that it doesn't distract them from having fun. Like, if somebody gets like distracted by that and it keeps them from having fun with the video, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
But also, that's not we didn't make a mistake there. We're just making a joke. Right. Like, we weren't trying to say it was Edward Scissorhands without scissors. We were just saying it looks like Edward Scissorhands without scissors for hands.
And it does. So great.
Yeah. And it does. So,
but related, I had a comment that somebody left on Discord in the Sins Videos channel. Ziggy McLeod? Yeah, I'm going to assume. Sorry, Ziggy, if I'm saying that wrong. The guy that Rick and Morty were running away from was not scissorless Edward Scissorhands, but Dream of the Endless. In other words, running away from Neil Gaiman. So
yes,
I like that.
As one does.
As one does. For sure. That was the two biggest things that I was thinking about this week in terms of like the fan culture seeming to have a lot of fun with.
Yeah, totally.
I just like the wording of this other sin too. The visuals are saying wind, the audio is saying wind, but the lack of wind in anyone's hair other than Morty is saying continuity issue.
It's written so well. I love that one too. I remember I reviewed this one, and I remember noting that one with just like a ha 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 or whatever. It's really nice when you can kind of hear something in a new way, and when one of the writers is just like says something and it kind of catches you off guard at the end. So yeah, that was worded really nice. I like that.
So I guess as the reviewer, you technically were on this script, so you're on all 5 scripts of the week then.
Sure, let's go for it.
Can you talk a little bit, like I know you've mentioned it in the past on BTS season 2 and 1, but like it's not necessarily been specific. What is your job as the reviewer? Is your job combing through things and finding the best sins? Is it making notes or reworking things? Is it? I mean, I know you mentioned sometimes the reviewer adds sins. What's like the main goal?
Very
of that
rarely. Very rarely. That is not the goal of the goal of the reviewer. I mean, if something hits the reviewer and they think it's funny or whatever, by all means, let's make our scripts as funny as possible.
Yeah.
But the main goal of the reviewer is just to be a third set of eyes and just to kind of go through it and pick up on things that maybe, because when you're writing on something closely, you get a really close-up view. It becomes a little insular sometimes, and sometimes you need to have somebody who's just coming to it fresh, reading it for the rhythm. That's one of the things with editing and cutting sins and those kind of things is if you've been in it for a while, it's almost sometimes hard to feel the rhythm of it because you know everything in it already. But if you come to it with fresh eyes, you can feel, oh, this feels a little weird here. This sounds a little weird here. I caught this grammatical error that we missed, whatever. Just another set of eyes to get as close as possible to having something that works and is as error-free as possible on the channel, which if you follow us, we miss stuff. It does happen.
Sure.
But yeah, we give it a good shot.
That's really all I had about the video this week. Do you have any other additional fun stories or stuff you really appreciated?
I'm loving going through as much Rick and Morty as possible. We're going to run out eventually. We're almost there.
What didn't Rick and Morty get like a 9-season extension after season 3 or whatever?
Yes.
So,
no, somebody from Rick and Morty just said they're going to be around forever. So I was like, that sounds great.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Keep doing that.
Very nice. So that leads us to Tuesday's video. This is the Bob's Burgers movie. My first question is, this is a Chris and Aaron script. My first question is there a particular reason this video came out at this point?
I think the new season of Bob's Burgers is dropping this week. So
what I had figured, if it had not already been going, I think typically like September is that start date.
So kind of in conjunction with that.
Yeah. Are you a fan of the show or not?
No, I've seen the first episode. TV Sins has done the first episode of Bob's Burgers, but that's it. That's my entirety of the Bob's Burgers experience until this movie. Chris, I think, is a fan of the show, and a lot of times that'll be an equation that we're looking for with the two writers, is one who's really familiar with the material and one who's coming to it fairly clean, because you get two different perspectives that way and can hit some different stuff.
Well, there definitely seemed to be that shining through in the script, because Chris would be like, oh, the band that was in that one episode of season 5 that nobody ever remembered.
Yep.
And I remembered because season 5 is where I stopped watching the show, because that was when it moved from Netflix to Hulu. And then now it's just like 10 seasons, 24 episodes. It's way too much for me to catch up on. But I do like the show.
Yeah.
So the movie then, did you like it? Like, as apart from, not really being with the TV show, like, what are your thoughts on the movie?
I think there's some smart writers. I think some of the stuff is funny. I think specifically the puns are great wordplay. I think this movie's kind of a mess, though. I didn't really enjoy the movie very much, mainly because I think it wants to be a musical, but it's not. It's just not a musical. A lot of people think the only thing you need to be a musical is to add music, but most movies have music. They don't always have the characters singing that music inside, but this was just, it was weird because there was like 3 songs in the entire thing, and they all come out of nowhere, and none of them are really good. And that just, I don't know, that just annoyed me. So yeah, that was probably one of the things. And also it does the thing that a lot of short properties do when they try to go long, which it has basically 5 different plots, and you just kind of have to jump around. So,
it was really fun following that narrative, though, in the Sins video of, you're just like, oh, they did this thing again. Like, one of the last things I noted was how you compare the video or the movie to Game of Thrones, and you're like, it's going to have all these different side plots and whatever, and then it's going to come to some big unmiraculous conclusion or whatever. Oh, so I guess it kind of is like Game of Thrones.
Yes, exactly.
Or was that Madagascar?
I think that might have been Madagascar, but I was just gonna go with you.
It's Madagascar, but it works for this example too, right? Like,
it works better for Madagascar. Absolutely works better for Madagascar. But
not sticking to the script. I had a lot of fun with this script. By the way, I haven't seen the movie yet. I haven't seen any of the content for this week except for Morty's Mind Blowers. So that's fun. So, I mean, I've seen the Sins videos, so. Which is...
Some would say you have seen the movies then. Those people would be wrong, though.
I really liked the Alan Menken turning over in his grave, because I know he's not dead, but yes, he went out, dug a hole, bought a coffin, laid in there, and just so he can roll around.
This is how much it offended him. He said when he heard this music, he was like, you know what? I need to turn over in my grave. I need to have a grave, and I need to turn over in it, because this is that terrible. Yes.
Melted Coochie would be excellent at CinemaSins. Great, perfect. Oh, and then I really like seeing the evolution of the college girlfriend joke. And I know you guys have talked about this in the past, how just simply saying whatever college girlfriend isn't funny 10 years later, and in certain contexts isn't necessarily like the best joke to make. But it's fun to see the evolution of that sin over the years.
Yeah, we really bring the editors, the hypothetical editors, into play a lot with that kind of stuff, where it's like, okay, they get to be the ones that are cutting us off, saying, okay, that's enough, kind of thing or whatever. But yeah, that one was fun. Yeah,
and then just seeing this encounter, because it was one of those things where they were at the construction site. And all of a sudden, I noticed that it reads N3/8, and I'm like, when did it change? And so I had to back up. I was like, there's a fractions thing like 3 sins earlier.
Yeah.
Which then I also noticed, I must not be a super fan, because I realized that there's no timer on the TV Sins ones, because I was like halfway through the Rick and Morty one, or the the Wednesdays video, I was like, where's the timer at? And I was having all these realizations about the things in the corners.
And when you think about it, it makes sense because the timer began when the goal was different.
Yeah.
The timer was there from the beginning of CinemaSins, where the thought was we're gonna try to do this in 3 minutes or less. Part of the whole point was to do it quickly. And I think what they realized pretty quickly, this was before I was on the team, was that the format didn't need to be 3 minutes or less or whatever. And so now when it says in 22 minutes or less or whatever, it's kind of a joke, right? Like it's kind of like, why would you even make that statement? Like
in a fifth of the movie's runtime or less.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So when we did new channels, I think the thinking was, well, that joke doesn't play as well because, we know what the videos are now. And so it's not like we're trying to be in such and such minutes or less or those kind of things. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, bringing up a Cop Rock reference, that was really fun for me because Cop Rock was something I wasn't aware of until earlier this year, maybe last year, when John Oliver brought it up on his show, and then everybody was aware of Cop Rock on the internet for about 30 seconds.
I lived it, Sonny. I was there when Cop Rock was born.
So John Oliver brought it up on his show. I really enjoyed the way he brought it up, and I was like, I gotta see the rest of the show because they play the Baby Merchant song.
Okay.
It's not even for a fun. I think it was something about human trafficking or selling kids or whatever. But I'm just like, I gotta see the rest of what this is because this is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's not meant to be, but this is. And so I go to find it, and there's only one place that has the DVD, and it's like a Shout Factory, DVD, the complete series. And I watched this episode 3 or 4 days after it airs, and they are backstocked. So I put it in order, and I get an email 3 days later, and they're like, hey, so we didn't know John Oliver was going to do this. We don't have anywhere near this much at hand, so your order is going to be 4 months late. And I'm like, whatever, I'll wait. That's fine. I'm not going to get around to it anytime soon anyway. So I have
that's amazing.
Of the DVD sitting on my shelf that's never been opened. So
and now that we've mentioned it,
now I got to.
Now they're never going to keep them in stock. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other one I have mentioned was British brothels after Fanny. That's great.
It's just such a weird thing how a word can be so dirty in another not even another language, same language, just different country. And it's so dirty. And yet here we're we all wear fanny packs. And over there, they're just you wear what now? So, yeah. And we also like to keep everybody guessing about which scripts Ian writes on. So we all try to throw British sins in there every once in a while.
The only question I had for this video was the lost wallet story, fact or cap?
That is no cap. That is Chris' story. He says, I had a hole in my back pocket and I lost it in one of the university parking lots. And then when I reached for it later, I noticed it was gone. Then this guy apparently found it there, went to a coffee shop where a girl I knew in high school, who I went to prom with, never dated, asked if she knew the person in the driver's license, and she ended up calling me about it. Her direct words were, "You dumbass." So that is the story from Chris about the lost wallet.
So this is why this podcast is great, because I was expecting that's a true story, or no, not that it matters. It's still a funny sin, but that story is better than the sin. You dumbass. Great.
Yep.
That's all I had about the video. Did you have other things?
One thing I did want to mention was we sin Disney over the 20th Century Studios logo, which is one of my new favorite things. And now we're starting to do it by sinning Discovery when it's the Warner logo. I don't know. I love that because it's both a sin just for media conglomerations, but also a sin for how it just keeps changing hands and people keep buying each other. So yeah, I did want to mention that, but
I appreciated that too. I figured you would bring it up.
Yeah.
So that brings us to Wednesday's video, The Rings of Power, 1 by 1. So I haven't seen this show yet because I wanted to watch the original trilogy before watching this. And I know it doesn't matter, but to me it does, because it's been since high school since I've seen the original trilogy. But having never seen the extended cuts,
if you hadn't seen it at all.
One time each in high school, but theatrical cuts. So I'm watching the extended cuts now. But the problem with that is they're 5 hours a piece. And then Return of the King is
3.5
half a
to
week
4,
long.
but yes.
But Return of the King is 5.5. I don't have that much time to sit down in one sitting, and I'm watching them with my wife as well, so we have to find time that we're both free. So we just have Return of the King left, and I think we're going to get around to that this weekend.
Nice.
Which then will let me get to Rings of Power, and then maybe if I'm feeling frisky, I'll watch the Hobbit trilogy. But I haven't seen this yet, but you and Danae wrote on the script, which seems like a fitting combo. What are your thoughts on the show so far?
I'm loving it. It's my favorite thing on TV right now. I've said this before, but it's so true for me. I watched the first episode of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, TLOTRTROP, long live. And it was as if somebody was speaking out of the darkness to me saying, your fantasy and entertainment can make you feel good. Because after watching Game of Thrones so much, it's just like everybody's terrible. Everybody's doing terrible things. Everybody's killing everybody. And it's like Lord of the Rings is like, what about hope and friendship and love? I'm just like, yes, bring it on to my optimistic, naive soul. I'm loving that. Plus, it is the most beautiful television show in the history of television. Just period. Like, it is absolutely astonishingly gorgeous. So it's really beautiful to watch. It feels really beautiful to experience. They're really handling the characters well and the story well. I'm already in love with all of these characters. Arondir is one of my favorite new characters in a story of any story ever. I love him so much. And it's not just because our names are only 3 letters apart. That's a very small part of it, but yes, I am having a blast with Rings of Power.
I think one of the other reasons, like why I'm really excited to get into this show, is because I've heard nothing but praise for the visuals, and I currently only have 40 megabytes a second at my house, and that's just not great for streaming.
Yeah.
But next month I'm getting 200 megabytes a second.
Yay!
So that will certainly improve streaming quality. Because even during this video podcast, you sometimes look 240p. I know it's on my end. It's fine. It's the audio that matters.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's I'm really excited to get into it. I just haven't yet. But onto the video. I'm really intrigued by this movie or by this show. It just seems like a world, kind of like you're saying about hope and joy, that like I really want to get into. I'm not the biggest Lord of the Rings fan, but like I'm always a fan of something with big spectacle. I'm always like willing to give it a shot. I didn't really like the first Avatar, that movie, but I'm really excited for The Way of Water just because I also didn't see the first movie in a theater, so I'm excited to go see it in a theater again. But it's one of those that just looks really, really entertaining, and entertaining as well. It was the Sins video. The beginning Sin that was kind of a run of like they're out in the middle of nowhere and nobody can hear them, and yet he still chooses to whisper in their ear. That's the weirdest thing ever. So next time you're alone with somebody, whisper in their ear one sentence and see how they react.
Yeah, just you and them, just while you're in a conversation, just lean in and just whisper to them. See how that feels, right? Like see how that goes for you.
As an extrovert, I'm sure still not well.
Yeah.
And then can we talk about the elves' ability to get icky war gunk out of beautiful white fabric? And then who was the idiot that was like, I'm putting my dead Fred's helmet at the top of the pile? No, watch as I send the memories of your recently murdered loved ones to do it.
That is just one of those things. Is one of the beautiful things about what we do is you look at a picture, at a visual, and you actually think about what had to happen for that to be accurate. Because the truth is, what had to happen was somebody had to have it in their brain, somebody visualized it with a storyboard, and then a group of set designers made it happen. But in the real world, how would all those helmets be stacked like that? They don't have a machine that drops them like that. They're literally either tossing them up there or climbing up to put them up there or, whatever. So yeah, just thinking about that stuff is one of my favorite parts.
There is another way that this could have happened. And the answer is the aliens that built the pyramids came back.
Correct.
And made a pyramid out of skulls. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's either a butt crack or an apple. Just
yes. And both have asshole connotations. So yeah. It kind of looks like both. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? It kind of looks like both.
And naturally, alliteration is gonna be something that tickles, I think, most people. Even if it's like in a groaning kind of way, like but aren't you full of your elf? A little elf confidence is okay, sure, but this elf aggrandizing, elf righteous demand feels a bit elf indulgent. Show some elf control and have enough elf respect to not try to cover all your low elf esteem with this elf-absorbed ultimatum. I honestly thought this was elf-explanatory.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even say it, and I'm like looking at it. It's so also props to the narrator.
Thank you. I'll pass that along.
I should have just told you to say it because you've already done
I
it
did.
before.
I already did say it. And as far as you know, I said it perfectly on the first try.
Yeah, I'm sure there's never any editing involved.
No. They never have to edit my stuff. No.
I think actually it shows up in the subtitles, and it's just one take of you reading it in real time.
Right. Yeah.
With a triangle for the ding sound. And,
right. Yeah. You know how it goes. It's all done live. Every time somebody clicks play, we have to jump in to do it.
For this alliteration one, was this a like one of you started it and then like, hey, can you help me on this? Because I think I got a real thing going. How long can we stretch this out?
No, that was just me going, boy, self and elf are the same word. Let's do something. And so then I just thought of all the different phrases we have with self in them. And there are a lot, and I didn't even use half of them. Yeah, and then I knew I wanted to end with the self-explanatory. I thought that was perfect. So elf-explanatory. Yeah. So then I just went from there.
It's just one of those alliterations that just keeps on going and going and going and going.
Yeah.
And then the one I had written down was, I wonder if there's trouble down south. And of course, I was thinking it, but I wasn't going to say it out loud. And then the narrator says it, STDs.
That's why the narrator exists, to say the things you don't want to say out loud.
The only question I had was there any fun keeping tabs on the rabbits Google search?
Yeah, that was a Danae sin, and I'm always interested in how she stumbles on things. So I asked her, she says, well, let's just say I had a great long look at the rabbit and thought, that actor is probably at least as tall as me, I think, which means that rabbit is all of my torso. That means this is a CGI rabbit, because there can't be a rabbit that large. Bunnies are small and have tiny pellet poops. They are not able to eat my nose in one bite. And then I thought... Google it, but I was scared. After a coffee and a tiny nap in that order, I looked up big effing bunny, and some things I decided not to click on. But one result was the Flemish rabbit, which is far too effing big. The end.
Oh, I love Danae.
You should get her on the show. You should have her on the show sometime, Aaron.
I would love to. I just want to wait till it's the most convenient. This week wouldn't have been a bad week. She's on 2 scripts. But any other thoughts on this video? Any other things you wanted to point out or talk about?
One of my favorite things to do in a script is to drop some like deep philosophical, I have to pause the movie to think about this for a while sin. That's one of my favorite things. And the idea of there being no evil in the beginning and how that would also mean there is no good, because moral judgments can only exist on a spectrum, and just leaving that with people. And then the fact, to say stick that in your church warden pipe and smoke it. The church warden pipe, of course, is Gandalf's style pipe with the big long neck. But yeah, I always enjoy doing that kind of thing. It's one of my favorites.
This was also bookend with the end. The last Sid also had that going, because it was where the person, I don't know what's going on there. They go through Valhalla, and then there's like a person in a lava pit.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. That's the way I saw it. And then it kind of ends where it's like, I got to consult the sin manual. How do I respond here? Like,
right. Yes. Yeah.
It demands 20 minutes of rest and 20 sins. So.
Yeah, that's always one of those fun conversations too, because I think when Danae wrote that, she initially wrote like 1,000 sins or something, or 100 sins. And it's so funny because this is what we say all the time. The sins don't matter until they do. And it's the weirdest thing where sometimes you're like, this show is too good. We can't put 1,000 sins. That doesn't make any sense, and it's like, but the sins don't matter. Yeah, you're right. They don't, but they kind of do sometimes. So we have to have those internal conversations where it's like, no, it doesn't mean anything, but we don't want the viewer to be distracted by going, wait a second, 1,000 sins, so yeah. Well,
and it's one of those that like the sins don't matter. Every movie has sins. At the channel's motto.
They're literally half of them aren't sins of the thing. So like we get it. It doesn't matter.
They don't matter, but then also like they kind of do matter, because if one is worth 1,000, then it kind of like degrades all the others. So, but 20 is a good compromise.
Yeah,
because the more sins they are, the less they all mean,
That's right.
Well, that'll take us to Thursday's video, Madagascar Escape to Africa. 2 CinemaSins videos this week that are written by you and Chris.
Yeah.
This is where we have our Game of Thrones reference.
What? What are you talking about?
I don't know. What are your thoughts on Madagascar Escape to Africa?
Oh, it's terrible. It's
Yeah.
terrible. It's so terrible. It is really hard not to get caught up in sequelitis when you do a sequel for a movie that you know is just going to put butts in seats because families are going to go see it because they liked the first one. The first Madagascar is fine. It's actually kind of good. It's fun. It's like, I like the characters. And then you just get to the sequel. It's like, oh, this character has to do the exact same thing they did in the previous one, and this one has to do the same thing, and oh, better let these characters be in it because we met them in the first one and we don't want to lose them, and we need to make toys of them, so maybe better get them in the second movie. It's not starting with a story, right? It's starting with a marketing need, and that's difficult to do. So yeah, I did not like this movie.
I saw the first movie. I was 10 when the first movie came out. I shut it off halfway through. Like, I don't even think I was ever actively watching it. It's not great. It's not engaging. I never saw the rest of them because why would I watch a sequel to a movie I turned off halfway through? But
It's a fair question.
But I was 10 years old. Like, that 10-year-old should be perfect for that. But alas, here we are. Is there a particular reason why this video would choose to come out now?
No, actually. No, it's just, it was one we wanted to do, I think, and there was a slot on the schedule for it.
There doesn't always have to be a reason, but I think it's always fun when you're just like, oh, here's this.
Mm-hmm.
And it did have the old intro banner, so I assume this one's been in the can for a hot second.
It has, yeah. When you sent, or when I looked up, what we were talking about this week, I was like, Madagascar 2, man, I wrote that months ago. But yeah, it just happens that way sometimes.
Sure.
We hold them, and put them out when they're ready.
The observation, pretty close to the beginning of the video, is ha 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 ha, animal asses. Isn't that really funny? Ha 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 ha.
How do they think of that stuff?
And then, of course, I've got to love the Chris Rock tells a joke to Jada Pinkett Smith that she laughs at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice
Listen, we have to. Any chance
Yeah.
we get. It just like on the Wild Wild West video, saying about the song at the end that it still slaps. Like that's, you have to make those jokes at this point.
Now are the butts next to the croutons at the salad bar? Depends on how you toss the salad. A+.
Perverted Ned Flanders thanks you for your compliment.
Franchise continues to insinuate that a giraffe would want to fuck a hippo without drawing us a diagram. And I think I have an idea for the next drawing for Jamie to do for Twitter.
It just came out of nowhere. Yeah, I don't know. Which is also what the giraffe said, by the way. Sorry. No, I'm not. Sorry, not sorry.
Look at us. Two former youth pastors talking
That's
about
right, having a good time.
I think my favorite sin from the whole video was this is a human's tooth, not a lion's tooth, and the reason why Alex is sucking on a human tooth is guaranteed to be better than this movie could ever be.
It's so true. Why does he have a human tooth in his mouth? I don't understand. Why is he sucking on a human tooth? Somebody help me.
Everyone is way too late to be asking these questions to be excellent at CinemaSins. Man, having not seen this movie, again, this would be one of those that infuriates me because Sin is right. Like, this movie would not exist if people would just talk for 5 minutes. How does Alex not ask, what does this pride ceremony look like?
It is so like that, right? Like, movies they do that thing where it's just like, we need our characters to be dumb here, so they're going to be dumb here.
One of them I didn't write down, but I did really like, was the throwing a pride ceremony without a bunch of rainbow flags.
Yeah.
And then comparing Madagascar 2 to like the Game of Thrones run. Tons of different stories that are all ultimately necessary because the ending fumbles it, and then the narrator is like, oh no,
Right.
that actually is how Game of Thrones turned out to be.
Right.
That was a fun realization. Because it's also one of those that, like, as watching the video, I'm like, no, this is how Game of Thrones turned. Oh, okay, the narrator's gonna connect that too. Cool. And my favorite sin from this video was, and where will you get the casserole dish from, Nana?
I thought your favorite sin was the human tooth. Now you have 2 of them. That's great.
Oh shoot! No, I like the human tooth one, but I love the sass from the narrator, and that, like, she's like, I'm gonna make you into a casserole, and like million different sin options there. But
sure.
where you gonna get a casserole dish from is
Nana.
that, like, middle school playground taunting attitude is great. Fun BTS stories, fun keeping tab stories on Googling, do giraffes have dying holes? Because that was an interesting scene.
It's basically a true story. I literally, like, they said something about the dying holes in Madagascar 2 or whatever, right? The giraffes go to die in their dying holes. I literally Googled, do giraffes have dying holes? Literally the first response on Google is an answer to that question that says there is no evidence to suggest the giraffes dig holes to die. This myth seems to have been perpetuated with the film Madagascar Escape to Africa. Literally the first response is, hey, guess you've watched Madagascar Escape to Africa if you're Googling this.
I love that Google knows.
So then I just embellished it a little bit.
You know that there are trending searches, and that, again, like with Shout Factory with their Cop Rock DVDs. Like, you must have watched Last Week Tonight, didn't you? So,
yes, yeah.
love
It does
that.
continue to say there is no way a giraffe would have the strength to dig a hole when it approaches death, especially one that was large enough for it to fit into. There is some suggestion that in times of drought, giraffes dig to help open up water holes, but this is the only form of digging that giraffes ever undertake.
That has to be somebody's job to like put that as Google's automatic response and just think about that. Enough people are Googling something from a kid's animated movie, a bad kid's animated movie. Nice.
Well, it sounds like something that had to be real. Like, why do they put it in the movie if it's not a real thing giraffes do? That makes no sense.
Yeah, but how much of this movie does make sense?
Well, none of it apparently. Not even the giraffe death holes.
Speaking of giraffe holes, how was it Googling the size of a giraffe penis?
I don't know. That wasn't me. That was Chris. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because those kind of things are they're answerable. You can find the average penis size of any animal you want. Google is a wondrous resource with many options.
That will get you on a watch list.
Yeah, well, I mean, that ship has sailed. That ship has circumvented the globe 5 times.
But I mean, for the listener that just now realized they can Google the length of any animal penis, don't do all of them at once. Spread it out.
You can watch an amazing documentary, I think on HBO Max, about the man who has the world's largest penis museum, and he has the penis bone from every animal that has a penis. And the documentary is about his dedication to find the last animal's penis bone that he did not have, which was the male human penis, which, by the way, don't know if you know this, male humans don't have a penis bone. So he was looking for an actual male human penis for his penis museum. And the whole documentary is about the 3 different candidates that were vying to be in this museum. So there's a plethora of penis focused entertainment for you if you know where to look.
You started off, and I was like, oh, this is going to be some really random, weird thing that I'm not going to be interested on HBO Max. And now I know what I'm doing tonight.
That's right. See? I should have saved it. Should have saved it for my Beyond the Sins.
Well, you can double dip. What did I miss? What are some other great things you liked about the video?
I always enjoy when there's just a random seeming coincidence in a movie that's from another movie, and it's just like there's not really a sin there, but you can find it because you just want people to know you noticed this thing or whatever. But they make this joke about, put your vest on and kiss your bleep goodbye, and they bleep it out with I think something popping or something.
The life preserver vest.
Yeah, and my brain immediately was like, that's in Chicken Run, except they say it correctly, which is put your head between your legs and kiss your butt goodbye. Which is actually funny because it makes sense. So to be able to kind of do a 1-2 punch on that, I thought was funny. And also any chance to get to mention Chicken Run, I will mention it. So yeah.
Sure. Well, that'll just take us to commercial sins then. Sirius XM yelling. First, I want to know, Ian was talking a little bit, and Jonathan both, on how you choose commercial sins. It's kind of just whatever you want. You don't really watch commercials, so how do you pick which ones to see?
I don't. Jonathan picks them for me.
Nice.
I don't watch commercials. So literally I'll go to Jonathan and I'll be like, send me a commercial to send. And he'll send me him one. And he's like, want to do this one with Kevin Hart yelling about lasagna? I was like, sure. Let's go. Let's do it.
I try to avoid commercials. They're pretty inevitable to me. I've never heard of this, seen this, whatever. And you'd think with paying all the money for Brett Favre and Dave Grohl and Kevin Hart, you would think that they would want to market this more. I don't know who that is.
She's from the former girl group Pop Life.
Okay, if you say so. You would think that I would see this commercial if they were going to invest that much money in it, but I see all the Patrick Mahomes State Farm ones, so
yeah.
Since you wrote on this one kind of a solo project, I think I've talked about them starting off, going first. I think you should kick us off.
You want me to kick us off?
Yeah.
Well, I sometimes struggle when I do wordplay with how subtle I want to make it. It is because I think there is lots of reward in making it subtle enough that the person who hears it or sees it feels good about discovering it, right? There's something beautiful about like, oh, I see what you did there. And like, like having you to use your own intelligence to do it. However, if you make it too subtle, then you get a lot of, no pun intended, right? Like they didn't know you made, like they didn't think you knew you made a pun. So I think I may have fallen on the too subtle portion of the line with this one. But the also, does Brett Favre just live in the bathtub? That can't be good for him. Am I the only one worried about the welfare of Brett Favre? I had to say it, right? Like, I mean, he's going through this whole thing where he apparently not only took money from social services welfare to build a volleyball gymnasium for his daughter's college, I think. But he's also like, there are texts of him going like, nobody can find out about this, right? it's like worst case scenario for him right now. And I just thought that was a really fun way to do that. But it's so subtle that I just wonder if like 90% of the people it'll go over their head. But yeah.
Well, here's the genius about that joke is it was still funny to me, and I had no idea.
Correct.
Like
that's what you try to do. Yeah.
Because Brett Favre in a bathtub, like certainly that can't be good for him. And also, why do you have a 60-year-old? He's not 60, 50-year-old man in a bathtub?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm a Bears fan, and that's one reason to not want that. But there are more reasons to not want that.
Sure.
When
you say a Bears fan, you mean the team, the Chicago Bears?
Look, fan is a strong word, but yes, because
there are other Bears. There are other Bears that you could be a fan of that could be a reference also to Brett Favre. So I was just clarifying what kind of Bears you were a fan of.
The football team that has my loyalty is the Chicago Bears, but I was born in '95, which means they've been good approximately one season that I've been alive, which means fan is a strong word.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, I had no idea. I'm enlightened now. I didn't know Brett Favre was, having all those legal issues.
He's having a scandal, man. He's having a scandal right now.
To be fair, though, Brett Favre would not be something that would come across my Twitter trending, and if it did, I would ignore it anyway. So I wanted to. I really liked this counter. Doesn't look like somebody just made lasagna. It looks like a counter where someone arranged an assortment of ingredients they thought might be lasagna adjacent. Because there's like a whole basket of full tomatoes, and it's like half of them would be used, and there's like full unpeeled garlic cloves and no like peelings anywhere. And granted, like you could put it in the oven and then clean up, but no.
Yeah.
I really liked that. And then, of course, hearing Chris in I'm going to call it a demon voice.
Sure.
Saying, now laugh.
Now laugh. Yeah.
Which leads me to a question.
Sure.
What was the note to get Chris to read in that tone?
That was 100% narrator prerogative. There were no notes to do that. That is Chris taking the words, seeing they were capitalized with an exclamation point, and just putting his own stank on it. So yeah,
very nice. Well, I have one more thing I want to talk about. Two more things actually. Haha.
Well, me too. Then I'll have another one too. Then
you could have picked anything in the world. Why did you pick the Super Nintendo Pog collection that included the Super Slammer board?
This is just one of those cases where I think Pogs are hilarious. I can't believe that's an actual thing that we collected. And so I like Pogs. And so I just Googled most valuable Pog collections, and the Super Nintendo one, if it includes the Super Slammer board, goes for several $100s. So yeah, that's all that was a little bit of a Google search.
Well, I'm sure that like jogged a bunch of people's nostalgia. But
I
was
hope
just
so.
like, you're not a gamer, but like I don't know if like that's still like in your prerogative of would have played Super Nintendo.
Super Nintendo? Oh, I played so much Super Nintendo. I played so much NES, so much Super Nintendo, so much N64, so much GameCube. Well, and I played so much Wii as well. So yeah, it really wasn't until after that I stopped becoming a gamer. So yeah.
I just know you constantly say you don't identify as a gamer, but I'm like, but you tell stories of like Atari, so yeah.
Well, yes, I do know Atari as well, and in television. I'm old.
Another point of the show is to get a bit to dive a little deeper into who you are. So that means we'll move on to Behind the Sinner.
So tell me about yourself.
We're all sinners. Every one of us.
And what happens to sinners?
Get to know each other better, you know?
See, Daddy, sinners have soul too.
The information, it's too much.
Walk away, March. Just walk away.
I've asked Jonathan and Ian this. If you could describe CinemaSins to someone who never heard of this channel, how would you do it in a sentence or two?
I think in a sentence or two, I would just have to say, if you love movies and love laughing about nitpicking movies, you're going to be in for a good time. Like that's, at its core, that's what it is. It's satirizing, making fun of a nerd culture that has gone too far. And so there's a lot of self-awareness, that kind of stuff. And yeah, if you like it, then you're going to like us.
And I've been loving hearing what are some of the favorite sins that each author have. So do you have a specific few sins that you like really attach to, either as a writer or just a viewer?
Well, there's two things that always make me smile more than anything else. One is like gifts of the universe sins, where it's just like the angels descend from high, the trumpets, play, the spotlight turns on, and it's just like, oh, I have delivered unto you the perfect wordplay. Those are always fun. I think one of the first times I remember this happening was on the Willy Wonka video, and this was the Johnny Depp version, and the Oompa Loompas in that movie are much more directly related to the book, how they are in the book, which is basically an African species from there or whatever. And they even do, like, if you remember in that movie, their arms crossed, like a chant, like they go, huh, like that or whatever.
Like a Wakanda Forever kind of cross.
So the universe delivered, of course, Wakanda Forever. And that kind of stuff is just like, I can't take credit for that. That's just there. Like, that's, all you got to do is turn over the rock and like it's right there. So I love that kind of stuff. And then I love wordplay that is, if it's not pun, like alliteration, sound alike kind of stuff. One of the first examples of that was on the Breaking Bad video on CinemaSins. There was a scene where Walter White and Skyler are in bed together, and Skyler looks under the covers and says, "What's going on down there? Is he asleep?" Basically making fun of Walter's, let's just say, non-performing member of society. So the sin was Mrs. mocks half-masted Mr. after half-assed, half-fast, half-mastered task, masterfully, fully baiting her Mr. with this massive masturbation. And so the idea, like the end with master bay, like, a loved one, shun. And then in parentheses in the script, because I looked this up so that I could present it to you, and I wrote, "You're welcome, Jeremy," after that one. But that kind of stuff is so fun. I spend the longest time on those sins, on the ones where I really want it to really feel perfect. To go from half-assed to half-fast. Just like stuff like that is just like that. That's what I love. That makes me feel good about what I do. So yeah, that's a fun one.
Nice. For the unique part of this segment, then I wanted to ask you, you seem to be somebody that loves like tinkering with theoretical ideas and likes to think about things a lot. And in my experience knowing you, you seem to have a lot of thoughts on how the world could function better. I mean, and not just necessarily the world, but technology. You have lots of like, if only somebody would do this. And I thought it would be fun to, whenever you're on, we'll have you fix a broken thing. It could be a system. It could be a piece of technology, something that you can just be like, hey, I think that this should be this way, and it's a shame that it's not, and here's how you can do that.
Yeah, I've kind of gone back and forth on what I want to talk about. And on my way driving home today, before we were recording, we have a road that we turn off of. It's a right turn onto a road from a fairly busy road onto a less busy road, just a regular right turn, okay? The fairly busy road, as most fairly busy roads should have, has, what do you call the edges of the road? The
shoulder.
The shoulders. Yes, it has prominent shoulders, in case you need to pull off or, put your hazards on, those kind of things. What I've noticed around here is that people think shoulders are turn lanes, and they will get into the shoulder way before the turn happens, and they are crossing a solid line not meant to cross, because that is not what that lane is for. It's actually dangerous to drive in that lane because it tells other traffic different things, like about, are you having trouble? What's going on? I was coming up on this turn. I never use the shoulder. I don't even go on the shoulder. I just turn right when it's time to turn right. And the person behind me, you would have thought I was the worst driver. They're honking and just like, they want me to get over onto the shoulder. And I just so frustrated. I'm just like, no, that's not how that works. That's not what it's for. And it just brought me back to what I think is the problem we need to solve, which is stop letting human beings drive cars. It's done. The technology already exists. There are still some things to work out. And if you're like, hey, why would you suggest self-driving cars if it's not perfect? I would say unto you, it is a lot better than the humans that are driving the cars. And what I usually tell people, because people's first response is, no, I would much rather be in control of my own fate and safety than a machine. And then I say, okay, that's you. Let's talk about the tens of millions of other drivers. Which would you rather have driving for them? And almost unanimously, it's like, oh, no. Yes, computers. Let computers drive their cars. Just not mine. And so then, I think that opens up a little conversation. The truth of the matter is it will absolutely change our economy. It will change things in ways we haven't even thought of yet. A lot of times you take a flight somewhere because it's quicker and you feel like less wasted time. If you have self-driving vehicles, by the way, here's the system. The system isn't that you buy a self-driving vehicle. The system is you subscribe to a driving service. And because it doesn't need drivers, it can be less expensive. They can handle all the, mechanical stuff, everything. So let's just say even $150 a month, which I think is a little extreme. I think it'll be much less than that. You can have a car.
It's like a crash test dummy, like that's a robot that drives for you.
It's just a car. The car drives itself. It doesn't.
Well, you said you don't have to buy a new car. Okay, I thought you were saying we could adapt every vehicle.
So instead of buying a vehicle, you subscribe to a service.
Oh, got it. So you're essentially just leasing. Yeah.
It's essentially Uber, except
Uber,
for.
Okay. So you don't own a vehicle. Got it.
Correct. You just pay $150 a month, and then you just on your app, you tell it, when you need to leave, and it shows up. And instead of flying, you order a car. You drive to California, but when I say drive, I mean sleep. I mean watch movies. I mean do work. I mean, like you have a moving living environment that you can do whatever in. Of course, part of the big problem of this system is the transition and the idea of how long before you make it actually literally illegal to drive on the roads, or at least certain roads. I think that'll happen quicker than we think, and I'm all for it. But, once that happens, the cars can communicate together. They will go faster. There will be no traffic jams. They will handle all that zippering that we're supposed to do as human beings when we go down to a lane. You know how we're supposed to zipper merge? Have you ever heard of zipper merging the rest of the world? This is the best way but no, there'll be no more of these people driving alongside as far as they can and then trying to scooch in at the last second. The cars will know what they're doing and just zoom along, and it'll be amazing. It's going to be absolutely astonishing, and I cannot wait for it to happen. I just want self-driving cars to be a normal, prominent part of transportation with like a decade of my life left. I just want to experience it for a few years. Sure. I just want to see it happen, because I really genuinely think it's going to absolutely change things in a really big way. So
and it would also make a decision to become something like a nomad a little easier. You could just like, all right, we're just gonna go hang out in California for a week. Like, okay,
right.
Like let's
yeah.
That's a really interesting theory. I like that. I would easily pay $150 a month for that. Absolutely.
Right.
If I don't have to have a car or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're not paying for gas or anything like that. Like
maybe $150 and then like a couple, certain amount per mile or whatever. but like I could see that happening at least to kick things off. But
yeah, the economics of it is kind of secondary to the practice of it, and just and then nobody is using the shoulder for a turn lane.
This is a really extreme solution for you getting mad at people on shoulders.
It's not what it's for. I'm doing it correctly, person honking at me.
I had a conversation with some friends that I gather with every Monday night. We had this conversation, and we came away with two things. We said, one, first of all, we're going to start to see lanes of exclusively self-driving cars, sooner than we think.
Yeah.
And then he said this idea, what we need to do is, especially for the interstates, is as you enter, you essentially have like a toll that scans your car and knows the flow of traffic. It knows the weather conditions. And so it knows every other self-driving car is going 85 miles an hour. So we're going to get your car up to 85 and merge in. And,
exactly.
And we're going to great. And then you get off the toll road and it abides by, or you get off at the exit and it like QR code, whatever, like scans your car to where it now abides by different rules.
Yeah, no, I think it makes way too much sense not to happen. And I know people are like, the thing is, a self-driving car will get in an accident. Somebody will die. Yeah. This is going to happen. And when it does, I just hope everybody realizes how many people die in car accidents every year.
Sure.
And that if self-driving cars, have accidents occasionally and a couple dozen people die a year in self-driving car accidents, you've cut the number of automobile deaths by 9.99%. Like right. It's crazy how much safer we will all be. It will stink for those people who had nothing to do with their own death. I understand that. It will stink for them, and it will be terrible and horrible for their families. But as a society, the greater good, will be served.
But it currently stinks for those families that have nothing to do with that death. Yeah.
I mean, think of just drunk driving. Just think of drunk driving. Think it eliminates drunk driving.
That was the other conclusion we came to, was we were talking, we decided we would all be okay if every vehicle had a breathalyzer installed in it. And you had to do it no matter what. Not just for people that have, every single car has to have a breathalyzer test before it can be started. Cool. We're all for it. There you go. Aaron just fixed using the shoulder to turn right.
That's right.
Off of mildly busy streets.
Yes. Come on. We live in a society.
Very nice. Well, I would subscribe to that system. I think that when this becomes, now that we've publicized your thoughts, you're due some royalties here in 5 years.
Yes. Yeah. Appreciate that. That.
Well, one last thing before we wrap up, we just got to do Beyond the Sins.
To infinity and beyond.
Somewhere beyond my wildest dream.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Something that you want to quickly recommend, warn, or reca-warn? What you got, Aaron?
Ooh, I'm going to go with recommend. I saw See How They Run.
I was going to do the same thing.
No, you weren't.
I was.
Were you really?
I don't see that. I don't do that much anymore. So nice.
Do you want me to pick another one?
No, go for it. We could just both talk about it. We are both recommending See How They Run.
Well, and primarily because nobody's talking about this movie, and it's a really good murder mystery, and it's really fun. And it's really interesting. There's some really interesting stuff behind it. with the play, The Mousetrap, and how long it's played in England, and you can do some research on that. It's really interesting stuff. The cast is great. There are some laugh out loud moments in this movie, and it's just fun. So I had a really good time with it. The only thing that I didn't like about the movie was Sam Rockwell's accent. That was literally the only thing I was like, where is he supposed to be from? And it distracted me. Sure. But other than that, I thought there's some really clever decisions made. Mm-hmm. And Saoirse Ronan's the best. Saoirse Ronan's just the best.
For sure.
She's the best.
For sure. I really liked this movie and agree with all the things that you've said so far. The thing that I thought of when I left this movie was I had a really, really, really good time. The problem is I think the movie loses a bit of the ridiculous factor kind of in the middle of the movie. It starts off kind of silly and outlandish and it ends silly and outlandish. And in the middle, it just kind of loses. It forgets that they were trying to make a sillier murder mystery. A still serious murder mystery, but one that is meant to make you laugh. And that's my only negative. But I really enjoyed it. And I have some fun ideas on kind of the way I wish the movie would have ended. But I don't need to talk about them here because I've already talked about them in another podcast medium. But
there you go.
But two big recommends. See how they run. It's in theaters exclusively right now, so go check it out while it's still there. Support it if you're the theater going kind. Well, that'll do it for Beyond the Sins. Thanks again to Aaron for hanging out on the show.
You're welcome.
Ian written in the notes, but you're not Ian.
You can call me Ian. That's fine. I'll answer to whatever.
Well, you'll answer to whatever. Where do you want people to call upon you?
Whatever.com would be where you should go. No. Listen, I do so many things. Your best bet is just to follow me on Twitter. You're probably familiar with the CinemaSins stuff already. Before I was with CinemaSins, Sift Pop was the name of the podcast and the website. That's still going on. Still do that podcast. Website's still going strong. In fact, Aaron, not that Aaron, and also not that Aaron, both do stuff with Sift Pop. So yeah, you should check that out, siftpop.com. But yeah, Twitter is at Aaron Dicer. In fact, you can just search Aaron Dicer. You will find all the various things I have been involved in because there is only one of me. So yeah, Aaron Dicer.
Well, you can follow me on Twitter or Letterboxd at Schweitcastle, and I'd love to hear your feedback on how you think the show is going and what you'd like to see. If you have any sins that you'd like for us to talk about on the show, if you have any questions about the process of the CinemaSins content making, you can send them to the Twitter BTS at CinemaSins BTS, or you can email BTS at cinemasins.com. And lastly, don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you're listening to. If it's on Apple Podcasts, why not go ahead and leave us a rating? That'd be really great. And come back next Thursday for more Behind the Sins content.
Thanks for listening. Send any feedback to bts at cinemasins.com, and be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment. Find more ways to connect by visiting cinemasins.com/BTS. Wakanda forever.
What is going on down there? Is he asleep?
Mrs. Mock's half-masted mister, after half-assed, half-fast, half-mastered task, masterfully fully baiting her mister with this massive masturbation.
Well, how will you ever operate without a boom arm for your microphone? Much of life is summed up by consistently getting things to stay close enough to your face. That's cool. When you mute your mic, it goes all dark, and then when it's live, it goes red.
There's a more like the same mic but a little more expensive, and I was like, well, what are the different features? Is it actually a better mic? And it's $80 more expensive, but it has multiple LEDs in it as opposed to just red. I don't need that.
It's amazing. Oh man, modern technology.
I would have never thought to ask what's the deal behind the toxic electricity sin. I would have just been like, oh, somebody's reading Malcolm McDowell,
Right. Is there just going to be a running joke? On every Outtakes, there's going to be a Malcolm McDowell reference. You want like a big news drop announcement in your Outtakes?
Sure.
Like something to tease people and just be like, hey, gigantic news in the Outtakes. You'll never believe what's in the Outtakes. Does that sound fun? Does that sound good to you? Okay. We'll do that then.
What? We'll do.
Go ahead. What's your big news?
What? I don't have news. I don't know. Are you taking me to Fantastic Fest? Is that the news?
No, that's not it. Yeah, so I'm a grandpa.
Hey, congrats.
So it's officially public this week. My oldest son and his wife are having a baby girl next year.
So you're a grandpa to be. You're not yet a grandpa.
Correct.
Got it.
Correct. Yes. I'm jumping the gun a little bit, like, hey, why not?
Have you already decided what your grandkids are going to call you?
Why does everybody ask this? Why is this so
important? Because grandpa names are cute.
I'm going to make them call me Dad's dad.
Sure.
Hey, Dad's dad. That's what I'm going to go with. Why not? Why not?
Why not?
That sounds very me.
Grandpa just names are just cute. Like I had Peepaw was my grandpa, but I've heard Poopaw. Like that one's a fun one.
Peepaw and Poopaw. Nope, not going with either of those. But hey, listen, love what you love. To each their own.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, your weekly look at all things CinemaSins. I don't know what that transition was. Whatever. Editing's a fun job.
That's right.
This is where we have our Game of Thrones reference.
What? What are you talking about?
I don't know. I think it would be funny to cut that first part, but then leave the second part in.
Hey, past Aaron. What do you have to say about this?
Well, there's a bunch of subplots that you don't really know, you never really get invested in, and or you get they hope you get invested in, and I should have wrote down the way it was actually worded.
Yeah. Set that mic anywhere. I'm old.
Your grandpa.
Wait, you're supposed to save that for the outtakes. You can't say that right now. We haven't even teased it.
We'll move on to Behind the Sinner. Smooth transition. A+, Aaron.
Well done. Well done.
I don't know. I'm stupid American, I guess.
Me too.
The thing
but
that
at least I don't drive on the shoulder when I'm turning right. Turning right. Turning right. Turning right.